So friends, today's topic is transgenerational healing. So most of you, if they are old participants, must are aware of what is transgenerational healing. So as the name sounds, transgenerational healing. So it is healing through our generations, healing our generation, healing our family tree, healing our ancestral tree, healing our relationship with our parents, with our grandparents, with our great grandparents, with our children, because as the name says transgenerational, we as uh, we as a part of this family tree, as a part of soul contract that we chose this family, we came into this family, we carry lot of hidden dynamics, lot of subconscious patterns of our family, lot of unconscious memories of our family, and that is being exhibited in our day-to-day behavior, in our approach, in our belief systems. So that's why this topic is very, very important to deal with it, and it actually is a very mysterious subject, because it very mysteriously, the way, once you understand this, once you heal this family, this once you go through this transgenerational healing, very mysteriously life changes, very mysteriously things will you a lot of blockages will be removed from your psyche, from the energy blanket that we carry all around. The energy blanket of a family will be healed, and which will lead to your personal healing. And then you'll be, once you are healed, then whatever healing which has not been happening, which has not happened since the cycle of the whole family tree, since maybe hundreds of years, you'll be able to break that chain of pain. And then and then you do not pass on to your generation, or to your children, and to your grandchildren. So it's a beautiful process. It's a very, very empowering process. It's a very empowering tool to actually break this chain of pain, take that responsibility, and then you end this years of these patterns, these belief systems, the trauma. So friends, what is transgenerational healing, and why it is so important for me to share? Because a lot of times we I've covered the topics like manifestation, or a lot of meditations we do, but somehow still we do not, and we always believe in free will, which is true. But sometimes these patterns are so overpowering, uh, because when it has been passed through the genetics of our parents, in our genes, it carries such a strong blueprint and such a strong cellular memory, that it overpowers our choices. It overpowers when we are encountered with a situation. We lose, our body just reacts. We just have the impulse to behave in a way which is a part, which that pattern which is a part of our family dynamics. So, like for example, if my father was going through depression in his time, suppose for a longer period of time, and or my grandfather was going through depression, so that pattern could run in my family history. And that's why a lot of diseases run in the family history, not because it is a physical disease, but actually because it is a pattern, which is an emotional pattern, and that we carry in our psyche of which are emotional psyche, and then it is expressed in our day-to-day life. We are born with that emotional imprint in our genes, and that's what has been impressed through our family history is expressed in our family life. And that's why it is very important to understand this subject. So it is also called family constellation. Family constellation is usually done in a physical setting, where it's a therapy, where it's like a workshop where you participate in, and maybe around in a group of 15 people or 20 people. And if suppose you are going through a therapy, then you choose a person from the group who is your representative. So suppose I am Shreyan, so I'll choose Shreyans from the group, and then I'll choose, whatever healing which I need to go through. Accordingly, I'll choose my family, my siblings, my parents, my grandparents, and my children, and then within the family, maybe my close friends. So I'll choose within this family, and then I'll place them all. and then I come out of this. I come out and I just see it as the whole dynamics as a witness. So the one whom I chose as Shreyans, he will carry the energy of me. It's a beautiful process. It really demonstrates that how energetically we are all one, because at that moment they are all part of the field. And then my mother will probably, the one whom I chose as a mother will represent as a mother. It will actually represent the emotions of the mother. So I wanted to just share my personal story. I came into this family, into this transgenerational healing in 2004. When Master John Payne from South Africa, I was organizing his workshop, and I attended his event. It was for 3 days. And in this transgenerational healing, when I was the subject, I chose, of course, I chose my parents, my brother, my sister, and everyone. And in that, it was revealed to me, a lot of hidden secrets get revealed. So it was revealed to me that I always thought that we are two brothers and one sister. So I have an eldest brother, elder sister, and I'm a brother. I'm the second one, and then I have a younger brother, Varun. You all know. So I always thought that between the brothers, I was the eldest brother in the family. But in that transgenerational healing, it was revealed by the one who was representing as my mother. She revealed that he is not the second child; he is the third child. I have one more child. I gave birth to one more child who died, and she was crying profusely. And I was just seeing it as a witness, and this was a very surprise to me, because I always knew, I never knew this, that I was not the eldest son in the family. So, but when I saw that, I could see that my mother was going through a lot of guilt. She was going through, because before giving birth, just 10 days before giving birth, my mother fell down, and and when the child was born, within 8 hours, the child passed away. And that was revealed to me in this family constellation. And when I asked my mother after the constellation, then she confirmed it to me. And I was surprised that she never revealed this to me. And but subconsciously, lot of, with this constellation, lot of healing happened for her also, because subconsciously, whatever the guilt she was carrying, she was able to reveal it. And not only that, I was always carrying, I always wanted to be somehow deep down, even though I thought I was the eldest brother, the eldest elder brother in the family, and I was carrying all those responsibilities. But sometimes I was missing, I was missing that carefreeness of the younger child or the younger sibling. So I was missing that in my life. And once I realized that that was my right place. I was actually the second son. And then you accept yourself as the give yourself the right place in the family dynamics. It is very important to have to understand your right place. If you're elder, then you behave like elder. If you're younger, you behave like a younger. And if the energies are misplaced, if the responsibilities are misplaced, then it leads to dysfunctional family dynamics. So that's why it's very important. It's then since then I was able to acknowledge that yes, I had an elder brother, and I acknowledged the place of my elder brother. Even though he passed away, even though he's vacated the body, but we know that energetically we are all there, right? We are all energy never is always present. So I gave him the right place, and I accepted him as my elder brother, and it probably must have healed him also in the other dimension. So that's why family constellation is a very, very powerful tool, probably one of the very, very strong healing tool which is existing on this planet today, which resolves these dynamics, which we usually tend to ignore because it is very subtle, very subconscious. We don't see it. And a lot of these emotional memories which we are born, we carry it very subconsciously, because as a childhood, we see the patterns, we see our parents, we see them as like a father, like a heavenly father and mother, and whatever are their belief systems, their patterns, their religious beliefs, their social beliefs, their emotional attitudes. We just carry it subconsciously within our memory, and it gets imprinted in our psyche. And even those who have passed away, it is not just our parents, because our parents, we have lived with them, but then our parents might have carried from their parents, and their parents must have carried from their parents. So that's how it is being passed on from generations to generations. And once you realize this, once you realize these patterns, only when you see it, then you can free from it. So that's why it's called seeing is freeing. So once we understand these patterns and these belief systems, these hidden dynamics, this unconscious loyalties towards our family, we can come out of it. So like how there's so much of unconscious loyalty we have towards our family. Like suppose if my family had a family feud or a family history of fight or animosity with some another family in my town or in my city, then subconsciously, since I hear that story, even though there was nothing happened during my lifetime, but because I hear that story, I also subconsciously carry a feeling of hatred or maybe indifference or animosity towards that family, against which is being carried, which is being carried in my family history. And same way, it is not just personal. Same way, it could be in a nation. Suppose India has some enemy, and even though they went through a war or some conflict, even though during my lifetime there's been no war or conflict, but because I gave up to the story of the nation, I gave up. I was brought up hearing those stories, and I believe those stories. So whenever I meet any person of that country, or I hear about that country, I that same memory triggers in my subconscious, and I behave from that memory. I act out from that state of consciousness, from that emotional lens. So friends, this is how it works in in our life. And we all know about epigenetics. Epigenetics is something which we all have heard of. I've covered it in my topics earlier, like by Dr. Bruce Lipton, who was the father of epigenetics, who discovered epigenetics, who brought this concept. So epigenetics is, even though we are born by our genes, but the truth is we are not the victim of our genes, right? So again, this sounds like a paradox, what I'm telling you before in transgenerational thing in this. So we are not the victim of our genes, and we, even though whatever we are subconsciously born as a blueprint in our DNA structure, or in a cellular memory, we in this life, we have a free will, we have a choice to give it expression or not, right? So we are more, so whatever is the blueprint which you're carrying, will be more predisposed to those emotional behaviors, to those emotional patterns, to those belief systems. But having said that, we have a choice not to carry it. So that's where meditation plays an important role, or these kind of healing therapies like transitional healing or past life regression or breath work plays an important role in healing these kind of belief systems, these kind of patterns in our life. So epigenetics says that we are not controlled by genes. It is the environment which controls the genes. It is not the genes which control the environment. It is the environment which controls the genes, which is true. But what happens is, whenever we are faced with a similar situation or a similar challenges in our life, which our family has gone through, immediately we will trigger the same emotional behavior, same emotional memory, and we'll act out from that. So that's why, even though it is the environment which controls the genes, but then we are more prone, or we are more predisposed of our family patterns, and behave from those family patterns, right? So but once we free ourselves from those patterns, once we release those patterns, once we release those memories, then we'll be healed, right? So that's why, friends, even though we know the concept of epigenetics, the new discovery shows that it is the environment which controls the genes. But because because our subconscious memory overtakes our conscious free will, our conscious freedom of choice, that's why we become a victim of our genes, But otherwise, we don't need to be a victim of our genes. We don't need to be victim of our family history or the family drama which has been enacted in the family psyche, right? So friends, I'll give you one story. There's a research done by in a group of mice, the rats, where they were exposed to a flower which they love the smell, lavender, and they love the smell of the lavender, right? So anytime there was the lavender flowers will put up near the mice, they will go close to them and they smell it because they love the smell. Now, while doing this research, what they did it, whenever they were close, whenever the mice would come to the lavender flower, they will administer shock to the current, electric shocks to the mice, and they will subject them to electrical currents, and then slowly the mice understood that if they touch the lavender gives them the electric shock, and they started believing that, right? So that became the belief system. So subconsciously they so anytime there's a lavender place, they will go against it, they will go in the other direction, because they now know, they associate lavender with the current, so they do not have a pleasant memory of lavender. Now, when these mice kids were born, when they gave birth to new set of mice or the new children, to the new babies, without they being electrocuted, subconsciously they carried that emotional memory, that emotional blueprint, and they would not go close to those lavenders, to those lavender flowers, because subconsciously they will carrying this memory. And that's why and so that gives a scientific evidence. There's something called transgenerational memory. Another research was done in 2015 on a group of Holocaust survivors. These Holocaust survivors were carrying a lot of stress related hormones. They were prone to stress, they were carrying guilt, they were carrying anger, resentment, and shame. They were carrying so much of anxiety as a more common trait within the survivors, because whatever they have gone through at the time of Hitler, and they were still carrying it in their psyche, right? Now, when their children were tested, most of the children were they were carrying the same emotional trait, the same emotional patterns which was seen in their parents. So even though the children did not go through any such kind of trauma, but psychologically or emotionally, they were inheriting that kind of same trauma, the same pattern in their psyche, and which was much more than the normal human being. Of course, we all have cortisols, or we all release stress hormones, but in those children, it was seen much more than the normal one, and in fact very similar to that of the parents. So again, that gave a new evidence that there's something called transgenerational trauma, and which needs to be addressed. So friends, this is that's why a very, very important topic to deal with it, to understand it, and once we understand it, we'll be able to release this trauma. A lot of times in my family, I've seen within my close family, I've seen that within my family, say a mother was not having a good relationship with the child, right? So when the mother was not having a good relationship with the child, in spite of she did everything for the child, but the child was carrying a hidden resentment towards the mother. The child was not. The child always was carrying so much of anger and feeling of neglect and feeling of as if the mother had given her any kind of trauma. So the child always felt that he has no mother, right? But now, when we did the family history, when we did the transitional healing, this mother was actually, she was born from a mother, but that mother was a stepmother, and she was being brought up by a stepmother, and she was abandoned by her mother, and in turn she also abandoned her own mother. So she was carrying so subconsciously she was carrying the feeling of abandonment in her psyche, because she felt that her mother abandoned her. So when she was carrying that feeling, she could see the same dynamics coming from her son. And when we went to the family history, so was the part of the family history from the grandfather's side also. So somewhere it was a strong pattern, the strong history in the history of the mother side and the father side also. And that's why this mother was carrying this emotional trait. And now, even though she was loving her son so much, but her son was carrying the same emotional trait of abandonment from her own mother. And that's why, and it is not just your children. Sometimes if you have a poor relationship with your mother, you also tend to have a poor relationship with your wife, or with the father, or with a husband, if you have a poor relationship with your father. So that's how all these dynamics are reflected, and it certainly works. It's like an energy blanket which we carry all through our journey of life. And all of us, all our families have gone through so many traumas, challenges in their lives, offering to survive, to go through this crisis. Every family has a history of these kind of emotions. There may be some good emotions, or maybe some limited emotions. We all have that, and we have all gone through those kind of emotions. So it is our responsibility now, as we can choose now to empower ourselves through this healing therapy, and release this patterns running through our family dynamics, and break this chain of pain. And if we do not do that, we keep transferring to our generation to generation, like a relay race. We transfer a baton. A baton is transformed in a relay race from one person to another. Same way, the same behaviors, the hidden dynamics, the patterns, the disorders, the belief systems, the family loyalties are transformed from one generation to another. Right? So it's also called the trauma not transformed. Trauma not transformed becomes a trauma transferred. So it is our responsibility, and if it is in our wisdom to actually transform this trauma. Because once we release this memory, we release so much of emotional charge around it, and then we liberate so much of energy. And now the same energy is available to create a new future, to give freedom of choice to us now, right? And a lot of times we repeat these challenges in our life, because as a part of the soul contract, we chose this family, and we chose these challenges, we chose this family dynamics, because to learn some lessons that we needed to learn for our spiritual growth. So we don't have to feel that we are a victim of our genes, because whatever life situations we encounter, we draw it into our life for our growth, for our evolution, even though it may be seemingly seem to us as a suffering, or as a tragedy, or as a challenge in our life, as a contrasting situation in our life. But we encounter them so that it gives us an opportunity to heal ourselves, to repair ourselves. And we repeat what we don't repair. So unless we repair these traumas, unless we repair these patterns, we will keep encountering and repeating this in our life, or in our family history, in our family dynamics. I'll share a small video.
The story of our communities, people and nation starts a long, long time ago. More than 60,000 years, in fact. This was when our culture and our law first started to thrive. We knew who we were and where we belonged. We took care of each other, our land and our waters. We ate food that made us healthy, lived on country and abided by our laws and song lines. Our families, our children were happy, with strong minds and hearts, because they were where they belonged. But then, everything changed.
Colonization came, bringing wars, disease, famine, violence, and the destruction and violation of our cultural laws, sacred sites, families, and communities.
We were denied our knowledge, language, ceremonies, and identity, the very things that tell us who we are and where we belong. And our connections with each other and the land grew weak.
And then, our children were taken from us. They had their names changed and their identities stripped away. They were told that Aboriginal people were bad. Worse still, they were told that their parents and grandparents did not want them.
For years this happened, and those children became known as the stolen generations.
Our children were denied love and experienced physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. This left very deep, very complex, and very real wounds, leaving scars that are still being felt personally, socially, spiritually, and collectively.
In the time when our story started, we were able to parent in the cultural way that has seen our families survive and thrive for generations. Our people were strong, and our culture flowed and healed us in times of hurt.
But since the trauma of colonization and the stolen generations, we have not been able to heal in the same way. And we have unknowingly passed this trauma on to our children through sharing our sad stories and having them witness and experience our pain. This is known as intergenerational trauma, and we see symptoms today in broken relationships, disconnected families, violence, suicide, and drug and alcohol abuse.
But this is not where our story ends. We still have strong minds and hearts, and we still know who we were and where we belong. By creating safe and strong communities together, supporting our families to be free from pain, returning to our culture and building a strength of identity, we can stop the cycle of trauma and bring about positive intergenerational change, so that we can continue to thrive for the next 60,000 years. There are simple things that we can all do to help heal our trauma.
Visit healingfoundation.org.au to find out more.